Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority.
7:37 on the Morning Majority. Brian Neiman and I are here in D.C. Brian Wilson in Columbia, South Carolina, live with us as well. And now we've got Mark Levin on the show. Great radio host, best-selling author. He's got a new book out called Ameritopia. How's it going, Mark?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing well, thanks.
Doing pretty good. It's an exciting day to talk to you. Quite a lot going on in the news. I want to ask you just about the state of the South Carolina race and the primary in general. You got all kinds of things going on. Newt is closing the gap. Latest poll shows Romney at 37, Newt at 30, which is doable. But you've got this Marianne Gingrich story coming out on ABC tonight. What happens in the next couple of days, particularly tonight in the CNN debate?
Yeah, okay. This Marianne Gingrich situation, I happen to know some information, and I'm not really comfortable with these divorce situations. First of all, why is ABC News doing this?
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't the first politician that's had an ex-wife or two ex-wives. I mean, that's very troubling to me. This is really not news. It's one person in a nasty divorce who is dumping on the other person. So my guess is it would be almost like a courtroom scene where, a fight over assets, a fight over who did what, and so forth. So I'm very, very troubled by this. I do not consider this news. I consider this an attempt to affect the election. And we have a habit of this in the Obama cases. I remember when he was running for the Senate, all of a sudden the Republican nominee at the time, Jack Ryan, I think his name was, some lower court judge in California, he had a nasty divorce and the records were sealed, and somehow this judge managed to unseal them, sunk that guy, and then Alan Keyes ran at the last minute. So.
Even Jerry Ryan, the ex-wife, had preferred that they stay sealed.
Well, they both wanted
in the media
sealed.
one, yeah.
Yeah, because, accusations fly. So now we have somebody who's very bitter, very angry, and she's going to speak. And the country's gone to hell. We've got $16 trillion in debt almost. The Iranians are arming up. We have this pipeline that ought to be built that's not being built. The president has a disastrous record, and ABC News is running this. And yesterday they ran a story on Mitt Romney's finances. I don't know how they know about his finances. With some money in the Cayman Islands. So, I mean, this is where the media wants to take this election. We conservatives need to take it right back to Obama and right back to his record.
I take your point that you don't think this matters, but I think
it may matter to voters, but why is this news?
Well, I mean, we don't know what's in the interview. That's part of it right now. There's nothing that you could hear that would change your mind.
No, there's nothing that I can hear that's news. This is a divorce. Well, let me ask you this. Is this Brian with an I or Brian with a Y?
It's Brian with an I. I'm sorry, in South Carolina.
This, Brian, are we going to do this with all the politicians running for office? Did we do this with John Kerry's divorce? Does anybody know the name of John Kerry's former wife? Does anyone have access to John Kerry's divorce records?
Nope.
Did anybody ask John Kerry's former wife for an interview? No. I've had enough of this crap. And I'm not prepared to entertain it as news, period. Will it have an effect? Of course it'll have some effect, because there's about 40% of the American people who are drones who love this stuff.
But there are a fair amount of people, I think, who feel that, this will elicit a, hey, you're beating up on our guy media kind of reaction, which I think, if there is no new news in this discussion, I think could outweigh, the bad effect.
Well, it might. But I don't really know. But imagine being a major news organization and saying, okay, this lady's come to us, or we're going to her, and we're going to have an interview right around the time of the South Carolina primaries where it's going to have major impact. And we have this debate. Should we run it before or after? That's not really a debate. That's just a question of when do we do our hit. And with all that's going on in this country and all that the media ignore, I'm sorry, I just find this repugnant, the whole damn thing.
Right. What do you make of the president blaming the Republicans and the press secretary blaming the Republicans for the pipeline being shut down?
Well, let's see, this pipeline, I think it's been in the works, 3 years?
Yeah, it was since 2008 they've been talking about it. They've been studying since 2008.
And he's upset that the Republicans said, make a damn decision already? Mm-hmm. Everybody knows what's going on here. The president is against energy independence. The president is all for this flat earth, no-growth environmental stuff. He ran for office. He said he would drive up electricity prices. He is. He's driving up all prices. He's driving up fuel prices, food prices, clothing prices. And then he claims he's for the middle class. It's our job, my job, as conservatives, to expose this nonsense. That pipeline can be built. We have zillions. We have water lines in this country, pipelines. We have sewer pipelines in this country. We have crude oil pipelines. We have natural gas pipelines. We have so many pipelines under the ground and above the ground in all kinds of environments and all kinds of geography in this country. This is a joke. And again, this needs to be exposed.
Talking with Mark Levin, who has got a new book out, Ameritopia, The Unmaking of America. What is Ameritopia? Can you give me the Cliff Notes version of what Ameritopia means?
The Cliff Notes version is this. When I started to think about this, as a constitutional republic or a federal republic, we're not really a constitutional or federal republic anymore. And if you listen to particularly activists on the Supreme Court, in other words, they'll tell you that. They'll say we have a living and breathing Constitution. This is a concept that goes back about 110, 120 years. You cannot have an all-powerful, centralized government and our constitutional system. It's prohibited under our Constitution. It is blocked under our Constitution. So you have to evade the Constitution, or at least pretend you're complying with it, but not really. This has been going on since the days of Wilson. He gave a speech and he said we're going to do this. It's been going on since the days of FDR. He gave a speech and said we got to do this too, and we do have to do it. And if you're on the left, if you listen to Thomas Friedman and Richard Cohen and all these interviews of members of Congress where they're saying, this Obamacare, what's the constitutional basis? They laugh at you. If you talk today about the 10th Amendment, and you had to have the 10th Amendment or the states weren't going to ratify the Constitution, and they agreed that later that they'd introduce these amendments to the states, the courts barely even acknowledged the 10th Amendment. The 9th Amendment, of course, that doesn't exist. The 5th Amendment and the Takings Clause on private property, nobody cares about that. The First Amendment, unless it's the press, nobody really cares about that. The Second Amendment, they keep talking about a militia as if the colonists got together, put together a constitution and said the government could disarm individuals. You know, the problem is, what do we have and where are we going? And what I tried to do in this book is dig deeper and give some of the philosophical roots for those of us who believe in individual sovereignty and constitutionalism and consent of the governed, and those who believe in this all-powerful idea that we can have this paradise if we just surrender more of our liberty and more of our private property. There are philosophical underpinnings for both, and I believe if the public understands both, then we may have a chance to salvaging what we have left in this country.
All right, I know you're going to have a book signing in Virginia at Tyson's on Saturday, the 28th. It's at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and the last book signing that you had was amazing. The line was just forever. It just never stopped. So we'd love to have you on again right before then, the Friday before your book signing. Is that cool?
Oh, absolutely. Let me tell you, you guys do a great show.
Well, thanks, Mark.
It's really enjoyable.
Well, it's great to have you on. We appreciate it. I guess you won't be talking about Newt Gingrich tonight, then.
I'll talk about it, but mostly about our friends at ABC.
I bet that's the case.
All right, Mark. See you.